I want to welcome everybody to our candidate forum. I am Sandra Weinstein. I am the chair of the Flower Mound Area Democrats. I can't tell you how I truly believe that local elections, because they're bipartisan and because we're all about the community, and this is something we can all agree on, improving our community, improving our school boards, are probably the most important elections that we can participate in. So I appreciate everybody coming out to hear from our wonderful candidates what their platforms are and getting educated for when you go into the voting booth. Now I would like to introduce our moderator, Calvin Dorsey. And Calvin is a very good friend of mine. I'm going to read it because I want to get it right, but he's very esteemed. He's the president of Dorsey Management Services, a management consulting, training, and insurance brokerage agency. In this capacity, he's provided services for federal, state, and local government organizations, as well as Fortune 100 companies. Because of his media background, Calvin created, produced, and hosted a public affairs TV show, which earned numerous awards, including the prestigious Silver Tully, which is an international award, I understand. As a former college professor in the School of Management at Texas Women's University, Calvin enjoys teaching and continual learning locally. He has conducted training, workshops, provided coaching, and developed strategic plans for numerous political candidates. And I will add, he's a distinguished Toastmaster, and he is the head of the Speakers Bureau. Thank you, Calvin. We are so honored. And then let me introduce Andrea Sanders, who is our Sergeant of Arms, and she's going to be the timekeeper. She's got experience with this from last year, and she's in a marketing firm, also very esteemed. Thank you so much, Andrea.
Thanks, everybody. It's my pleasure to be here. I'd like all the candidates to come up to the table and be seated. Are we missing? Yes, we're missing the tall. Where's the tall fellow? Oh, there he is. The tall fellow's right there. Got to have the tall fellow. The rules will be quite simple. Each candidate will be asked a question, and the answers will be given in alternating order. For example, we'll ask a question of Michelle. All candidates will answer the same question. Then on the next question, we'll begin with Dr. Barker, and all candidates will answer that question. It's quite simple. They have 90 seconds to respond, 30 seconds to wrap up. In fact, candidates, take a look at Andrea here. 30 seconds into your 90-second response, you'll see a green card. It'll help you modulate your response. 60 seconds in, she'll show you the yellow card. At 90 seconds, you'll see the red card, which means that you've got 30 seconds to wrap up. Okay? At the end of our program, each of you will have 1 minute to make closing remarks. Are there any questions? Not yet. Let's get started. Okay. First question for Michelle.
Oh. Yes.
Michelle, tell us about yourself, your qualifications and involvement in civic activities that make you a good fit for school building.
Sure. So my name is Michelle. I am a former administrator and teacher. So I've been teaching and have my teaching experience of over 22 years. I am a mother of 4 children who are currently in the district, and they are in elementary, middle school, and high school. So I see every level, and I am invested in the district. I have lived in LISD for nearly 18 years. We bought our home here before we had kids because of the district. It was our attraction. We looked at other districts around, but this is what kind of sold us our original house. And so we really like what's going on here. The experiences that I have, most of my volunteer experience is through PTA, both at the local level and the state level. I volunteer at different campuses, not just my own children's. I'm involved in all campuses across the district. I serve there. I am also on the Lewisville Education Foundation Board of Directors, so I also give back through that as well. And I do a lot of other volunteer activities, Girl Scout mom, PTA mom, and all those other things where I'm giving back my services. I'm qualified. I am qualified for this position. I have the experience, and like I said, my kids are in the district. I'm invested in LASD. That's why I'm the best candidate.
Hello. Whoa. Hello. My name is Dr. Staci, and I'm running for place 7 of the Lewisville ISD Board of Trustees, and I'm a mom first. So like Michelle, I have a child in the district. My daughter is actually here. Wave, yes, there's Anna. She is a 7th grader at McCamey Middle School here in the district. And so I'm always keeping that perspective first as a parent. I'm involved in her school through their PTA, as well as I serve as a secretary on her choir booster club. But in addition to that, I'm also an educator. So I have my doctorate in educational policy, leadership and policy studies, and I work for a regional education service center. I've been a teacher, I've been an administrator, and now I serve at the regional level. And that gives me experience with over 120 districts across the North Texas area, so I can see ideas and bring that perspective to our school board. The other thing that I've done in my role is I've actually trained school boards on things like accountability and data. So I understand the difference between administration and governance, and that's really important for someone that's going to be in this role. Lastly, I'm a homeowner and a stakeholder in that regard as well. We live in Wellington, and I'm like everyone else, watching those property taxes go up and really thinking about what that means in terms of both investing in an education, but then also taking a look at where might we give some relief to that. So thank you, Dr. Staci, place 7.
Hello, everybody. I'm Jacob Anderson. In 2012, I came from CPS as an investigator for Dallas County. I was in all these homes, realized there's not many dads involved in upbringing their kids. And so I aspired to be a classroom teacher. I joined LISD at a Title I campus at Central Elementary. As a special ed teacher, I moved into general education and taught 3rd grade dual language. And then I moved across the highway of 35, and I was a campus administrator for Lakeland Elementary. 2 very high needs campuses. And so I've got experience in the classroom, and I've got experience as an administrator at the campus level. I have a master's of education leadership and just a practitioner's experience. I've got 2 kids about to be enrolled in LISD schools. My wife and I, we fostered for the last 5 years, and we've had kids come with us to the campuses that I taught at. I believe in our product, I believe in our teachers, and I think we put out a great product and a great student experience.
Our next question will be posed to Staci. First, the Flower Mound Area Democrats expect school board trustees to be staunch advocates for public education. What is your position on private school and homeschool vouchers?
No. Let me expand on that just a little bit. Any position, any law, any program that takes money out of the public schools and puts it into private institutions is not what is good for kids in our district and across the state. There is a ton of research out there that shows that when you have vouchers in place, it increases the disparity between the haves and the have-nots. It challenges the resources that are still available in the public schools for those that don't have the resources to take a pittance of money and try to use it at a private school. And then there's also research that shows that they don't achieve more by using vouchers. The achievement level isn't there. In addition, we take away public accountability for public dollars. So they are able to take those funds, but then aren't accountable to how they're spending them. So all of these are reasons why we should not have vouchers in our public school system, and we should advocate, everyone in this room should be advocating and calling their representatives to say, this is not for us.
Okay. For the purpose of time, let's hold the applause. Jacob.
I greatly agree with Dr. Barker. I don't agree with school vouchers. I think they do pull money away from public education. I think the government is trying to pick favorites, and I think there is an agenda to privatize education. That'd be great in a free market, which is great. However, we're not playing by the same rules. And so, like charter schools, they don't have to have certified teachers. We've actually had kids that left Lakeland Elementary, they'll go to Harmony, or they'll try charter schools, and they come back reading at a lower grade level than they left with. That's unfortunate. I think we have a really good product again. And I think we can compete with any other district. We can compete with charter schools and private schools. LISD has a great product.
Thank you, Jacob. Michelle?
No, I do not agree with vouchers. I think that the state first needs to look at the proper way of funding our public schools that are already in place. They can't even fund the programs we currently have going. And until they do that, they don't need to add on another program that they don't have plans for. And the accountability of that does not exist. And until they give us those parameters, they are held to the same accountability standards that we are, who receives our state funding. No, we do not want them taking our property tax dollars, our money that we put in to fund something that they can't even fund us for. So until that is fixed, absolutely not.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Jacob, you get the next question. Teacher recruitment is important in LISD. How do you propose that the district attract and retain quality teachers?
Yeah, this is a problem across the state. I think there are universities that close their education department because of a lack of interest and enrollment in their education system or their colleges. I appreciate the attention that the teacher shortage is getting from our state legislators. There's constantly talk about increasing teacher pay. Teacher pay is great. I'm an advocate for increasing teacher pay and having it be competitive. I don't think that money is what's going to solve the problem, though. Last year, we were offering the highest hourly rate for teachers to stay after school. Nobody was willing to participate in House Bill 4545 tutoring that was mandated. They wanted time to spend with their own families. On a high needs campus, they struggle to go home and spend time with their families. Actually, I forgot where I was going with that.
Attract and retain.
Thank you. Yeah, I think we need to partner with our superintendent who's focusing on district culture. I think that's very important. And also, I think we need, as a board, need to align our policies to state mandates. If it has to get done, it has to get done. But we don't need to add anything else to a teacher's plate.
Thank you.
Teacher retention is a problem not only in our district, but it is across the state. And we do need to find ways in order to attract more teachers into our district. Lewisville ISD is an amazing district. We have such great programs and resources that are available to our teachers, to our staff, and to our students. Our board of directors and our superintendent has worked really hard to ensure that those are in place, and we need to keep them there. Right now, the teachers want not only pay increase, but they want recognition. They want that appreciation. They want that sense of, I'm accomplishing something and I'm doing well with it. And so we need to keep making sure that we are, advocating for them, advocating for their success. Dr. Rapp always talks about time is the form of payment that the teachers need. They need time. And with all these mandates that keep coming from the House bills or from legislation that are requiring us to give back, put into the classroom, the teachers need time in order to do it. And so we also need to try to find those resources and ways to do it. And so we need to look at ways to bring teachers back to the love of teaching, enjoying the classroom again, enjoying what they have to offer. And I think Lewisville ISD is moving in that right direction with the recognition programs that they have, looking at the bonus incentives, looking at other alternative ways to appreciate our teachers and make them feel respected.
You've heard it from them already, how much of a challenge this particular area is. And I will tell you that sitting in on the budget workshop this past week, was that just yesterday? Just yesterday, there's a real challenge in the district right now where we are under some serious budget constraints. And so we're looking at, we of course, we want to give teachers raises. Who doesn't, right? And so, but we have to also balance that with what's happening with the budget. And so there are some other ideas that are floating around that I really like, and one of them is providing stipends for those high-need areas, particularly for special education, for Title I, for those kinds of things, so that we can attract those high-performing teachers. But then my colleague is also doing a study right now on why teachers stay. We're hearing a lot of why teachers leave. She's studying why teachers stay. And there's a few things that her preliminary findings are saying. The first one is purpose, right? Getting back to that love of teaching. The second one is leadership. So making sure that our administrators are strong and providing appropriate support, that's the third thing, to our teachers. So making sure that training is relevant and appropriate and not a waste of time. And then really looking at initiative fatigue, not just adding more things to their plate, but what can we take off their plate? Because we can complain about the state passing down mandates all day long, but if we're doing the same thing, we're no better. So we've really got to look at, are there things that aren't as high priority or as high leverage as others, and can we say, let's take that off, let's lighten that load so that you can get back to the purpose of teaching, which is being in front of those kids.
Thank you very much. Michelle, you get our next question first. Legislation has been introduced proposing that children who are undocumented have to pay tuition to attend public schools even if their parents pay taxes. What is your position on this legislation?
Every child needs to be educated. We're in Texas. I think every child has the right to be educated in our state. If we do not educate our children, what are we doing to our future? What are we doing? These are the people who are going to be taking care of us. They're the ones who are going to be the doctors, the welders, the plumbers, the teachers, the technicians. We need to educate them. If we're allowing them to stay in our state, in our country, they have to be educated. That is our right. That is our duty, our expectation. So I think we need to educate them.
Agreed. I'm really good at these one-word answers, y'all. Okay. I agree, and there's a couple of reasons why I agree. The first one is that the Supreme Court already settled this issue quite a few years ago and said that if they're in our communities, that they need to be served by our public schools. So I don't understand why we need to go back and rehash this issue when it's already been settled by the Supreme Court. The second thing that I'm going to say, and I will tell you quite frankly that it's not very often that I agree with something that Tracy Scott Miller says in a board meeting or a board workshop, but he said something yesterday that I wrote down because I agreed with it. If you don't pay for educating them now, you will pay for the social services or the other consequences that happen later. So if we don't educate these students now, we're going to eventually pay for them as a community. So let's invest in it now.
Yeah, I've got. I completely agree. I think every child deserves a free and appropriate education. Not appropriate, an excellent education. Again, I think LISD provides that. We accept all students. I think public education is important to our society, to educate the society. Charter schools don't necessarily have to do that. So if I had a brother that had autism, they could take me, and then my brother would be better served in a public education setting. And then public education is held accountable to my brother's autism, and of course he's not going to perform as well on a STAR assessment, but our mantra is we take all students deserve to succeed, all students deserve to thrive. We can do that in LISD.
Thank you, Jacob. Our next question relates to a term that's bandied about a lot, yet probably not understood. As you know, critical race theory, also known as CRT, is not part of the K-12 curriculum in Texas. What is your position on teaching age-appropriate history, even when it may expose students to socially difficult and controversial topics? Dr. Barker.
Well, you said it well. Critical race theory is not something that is taught in the K-12 education. It's an academic theory, and as a recently graduated, not that long ago, PhD student, we use those theories to help us understand data, and that's not the way that K-12 education functions. So absolutely, we should be teaching age-appropriate history. How do we go through and become productive members of society if we don't understand the challenges that we've been through as a country? How do we do that? We can't. If you don't teach history, you are doomed to repeat it. I can't tell you who said that because I, clearly didn't do my history homework. But we know that that's what's going to make our students have the skills that they need to engage with all kinds of people in an increasingly global society. We've got to make sure that they are getting the appropriate education. And here's the easy part. The State Board of Education has already told us what that includes. We have our state standards, the Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills, the TEKS. They tell us what we need to be teaching at what grade levels, what is age appropriate, and what the depth and breadth of that knowledge should be. And it doesn't include CRT, but it does include age appropriate history. And so that's what we should and do teach in our public schools.
I would agree with that. Appropriate age level history is fantastic. We should be following our state standards in the classroom. CRT is not taught in Texas. I think it's against the law to do so. So just follow I think all of our teachers are following state standards and teaching to the learning standards.
Okay. Thank you, Jacob.
The State Board of Education has developed our standards that we must teach in the classroom. Those are our TEKS, our Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills. That is what we as educators are required to teach. And yes, they do teach age-appropriate historical events and lessons for us. CRT is not in the TEKS. We don't teach it.
Thank you, Michelle. Jacob, I'd like you to put on your thinking cap.
Yes, sir.
How are you going to address the disparities in LISD schools in regards to disciplinary infractions against kids of color? Here's what I mean. In LISD, 30.7% or 31% of the students are Hispanic, yet 40% of the out-of-school suspensions are Hispanic kids. 12% of the students in LISD are African American. Yet 36% of the expulsions or OSS are African American students. What say you?
What say me about?
Number one, do you feel there's a disparity? And I've just pointed out that there is. How would you address that? What would you do? If you decided that that's an issue, what would you do about that?
That has been an issue. I don't think it's strictly LISD that struggles with that. I believe this was something that was a large topic whenever I was a special ed teacher, and we had a committee that created BASE, which is the Behavior, Academic, and Social Skills Education Setting. And so whenever a child with special needs has an IEP for behavior, we had an alternative from suspension that we could place them in. They could de-escalate in that setting, and they could have one-on-one with a teacher to help them with some skills to cope and manage that behavior a little bit better. I think we have fallen away from that, and we've kind of put it on the back burner. I think it is time to readdress it and have another committee to where we are brainstorming some strategic ways to address the issue.
Thank you. Michelle, you're next.
There is a disparity, unfortunately. And one of the first things I think we need to do is look at the policies that are in place. There is a policy in place to ensure that students are or that administrators are following in order for discipline actions. I think the biggest thing that we need to do is we need to look at discipline versus punishment. It's the biggest piece. As a district, as a school district, we are there to teach our kids. And I think that we really need to make sure that we are, if there is an issue going on, that we are talking to those children, we are talking to those families that are involved, and do they understand the difference? Do they understand the difference between why they're being punished and what is the discipline? What harm did they create by whatever action they made? What can they learn from it? And how can they take it back? Because if we're not teaching them to learn from those experiences, we're continuing that number. We're continuing to drive that up. Some of these kids aren't getting those lessons from home. And so this is one of those things that we have to educate them on. You know, understanding what did they do wrong and how to fix it.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to try not to repeat what has already been shared so that you don't keep hearing the same thing over and over again. But first of all, to address the disparity, I want to put it in slightly different numbers. So when we look at out-of-school suspensions for last year, for white students, as you mentioned, which is a little over 30% of the population, there were about 200 out-of-school suspensions for white students. For African American and Hispanic students, which are both a smaller population than white students, that number is closer to 600. One group a little over, one group a little under. That's a huge disparity, and that's a challenge that we need to face. And so one of the things that I want to look at, yes, systems and policies, but one of the things that I really want to dig into is discretionary decisions. So we have things in our policies around mandatory placements, things that you might anticipate, like bringing a weapon to school or those kinds of things that have automatic triggers to disciplinary action. But we also have discretionary things that are left up to an administrator. And in a lot of cases, those administrators are doing a fantastic job of managing that. But we can take a deeper look at what's going on with those and look at some trends in the data and what we might be able to do about it. The second thing that we need to look at is social skills. So COVID sent a lot of our kids home for a very long time, and they were by themselves in front of a computer. And so naturally, when we bring them all back together, there's going to be friction, there's going to be some challenges in reenacting with the classroom. And so I want us to continue to look at how do we support re-engaging those social skills.
Thank you. And as a follow-up question, what role, if any, do you feel cultural competence can play in solving this issue? Yes.
Is it me first?
Yes, ma'am.
I think it plays a huge role. And I think that that is one of our things that we have to do as a district, is to make sure that the parents and the community is informed. We need to be able to give them the resource, educate them in order to make sure that they have that competency, that they have those skills in order to be able to identify those. So I think it's very important.
Similarly, I think we also need to look at what that looks like for our teachers and our students as well. Because just to give you a little background about me, I taught in Washington, D.C., on the east side of Washington, D.C., for a couple of years. And I was one of 6 people in the building that looked like me. And so it was a very eye-opening experience for me, and I recognized the privilege in being able to say that that was the first time that that had happened to me. But I had to have really in-depth conversations with my colleagues about what discipline looked like in my classroom, about what behaviors my students were exhibiting, and is that respect? Is that disrespect? Maybe I'm taking this wrong. And there were many times that I was. And so I had to readjust my expectations of what I considered to be respectful, or to be following the rules, or to be engaged in instruction. So those are some of those things that I think are really important for us to have conversations around. Not just training, one and done, not just telling people they need to have it, but conversations on an ongoing basis.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think cultural competency in education is very important. I think, let me give you some examples. Like whenever we're identifying students for gifted and talented services, we typically have a harder time identifying students who are native Spanish speakers. And so understanding how we're asking questions as educators is important to help guide our instructional practices. So cultural competency is very important.
Unfortunately, there was another school shooting yesterday in Nashville. 3 9-year-olds and 3 adults were killed. For you, in terms of protecting students from school shootings and drug problems as much as possible, what ideas do you propose within the scope of the school board's power? Dr. Barker.
Having trouble keeping up whose turn it is. I feel like I was better at it last year. Okay, that's all right. So I'll say, first of all, that I think that Lewisville ISD is doing a fantastic job when it comes to safety and security. At the last board meeting, we had a presentation that said that with all of the safety audits that we have had recently, we've had no findings, meaning that the state can't find anything that we're doing wrong when it comes to safety and security. So that's really positive. And I know as a parent, when I walk up to my daughter's school, I make sure my ID is out. I am ready to show who I am and why I'm coming to this school. So those are the things that I think we are doing a really great job of. And I want to be cautious about getting into conversations around things that will make our schools seem less welcoming, things that will make it feel more restrictive or more even prison-like, for lack of a better term. So we have to be cautious about that. What we can do is we can take a look at how are we supporting the mental health of our students, so that they are served appropriately with whatever needs that they have, and so that we can try to mitigate some of the evolving emotions that happen before an event like that occurs. And I know I'm running low on time. I could go on about that. One other thing, before she's holding that red card, I also want to speak to, you mentioned drugs. Fentanyl is a pervasive issue in our communities right now. We just had in our community an 18-year-old arrested for distribution. So we have got to be working with our school nurses and our resource officers to be able to give students and parents and community members information.
Okay, thank you. Jacob.
Yeah, again, I would echo that. I think LISD has a fantastic safety and security program led by Matthew Garrett. I'm blanking on his name. Garrett, thank you. Actually, people across the state or districts across the state have asked him to come and do trainings. We have a fantastic program and nobody talks about it because that would be exposing us to security risk. Where I think that we could improve, yes, focus on mental health. I think we need to also fully fund our behavior interventionist program. We have kids that are protected by the umbrella of special education as we have identified them for behaviors in the classroom. They need additional supports. They're being tested and evaluated, but there's a kind of in between. Our our behavior specialists are phenomenal, and they come to the campus. They do trainings for the teachers. They help support in the classroom. We just need to make sure that they're fully funded and we have staff members in there for them. And then secondly, as an AP, it was my responsibility for safety and security for the campus. I led trainings on teaching teachers how to, what our district policy is and our standards that we need to follow to keep the campus safe. However, I don't think I'm the best person for that. What I would like to see is a strong partnership with our SROs, our school resource officers, and have them lead those trainings and have them perform safety audits each time that they visit a campus.
Thank you, Jacob.
LISD has an amazing safety and security rating. We've received awards. Matt Garrett has been honored for his achievements. And we are honored that, with your support and with other constituents' support in 2017 with the approval of our bond, we were able to be ahead of the game when it came to safety and security. We were able to make sure that our schools were outfitted, bulletproof glass, all these things that they're now saying in legislation that we have to provide, we've already done because we were ahead of it. Our school board invested in that. They invested in what was needed in order to make sure that our students, our teachers, our staff was safe when they walked through those doors every single day. I do think that we need to look at the mental health that's going on as well. I think we do need to make sure that we are educating those students and those teachers to look for those warning signs. She mentioned fentanyl, she mentioned the drugs. It's there. It's in our schools. We need to make sure that our teachers, our parents, our community are equipped with those resources in order to be able to identify those so that we can help provide those mental health supports, those extra services that our students, our teachers need. They need those resources in order to be a better fit for the classrooms.
Thank you, Michelle. Let's stay on the topic of mental health for a moment. Each of you mentioned the importance of mental health in our district. It is my understanding that the social emotional learning resource has been removed from LISD. If that is in fact true, what do you propose we do? How do we approach mental health?
So social emotional learning, sadly, was not a priority of mine in the classroom until my very last year as a classroom teacher. We were introduced to restorative practices. We were probably one of the last campuses trained within the district. And so I gave it a shot. I did a fist to 5. Fist being I'm having the worst day of my life. 5, I'm having the most incredible day of my life. Holy crap, I can't believe this happened to me. And then they just hold it up here in front of their chest where I'm the only one that can see it from the front of the room. First time I ever did it, I had 2 girls that held up a fist. I write their name down, bring them to my teacher table later in the day, and I just check in with them. First girl told me her brother hit her in the shoulder and then called her name, so she was upset about it. Now she's a 2, she's feeling better. Good, go back to your work. And then the second girl told me, Mr. Anderson, somebody jumped our fence, stabbed our dog to death, and then we were doing a police report before my mom brought me to school. It broke my heart. How can this little girl function and learn with my targeted instruction tailored just to her while she's withdrawn thinking about that? Social emotional needs are extremely needed, especially in the education or the early elementary education. I don't believe that we have removed it. Second Steps is very much alive. That's the program that we're using within the district. So I don't think it's been removed.
I think social emotional learning is very important. It is the way for us as educators to connect with our students. They need that connection. We do not know what they had going on before they walked through our doors. We have no idea. Some of them have had horrible stories. Some of them just woke up on the wrong side of the bed. But to them, that is horrible. And they need to vent that. They need to get it out. They need to know how to tell you about it. Because if they don't get that, they're not going to be able to learn. They're going to be distracted. Math is a second thing for them. Reading, history, so forth, art, PE, it's not an outlet. We have to make sure that we are building those relationships with our students. And as an educator, it doesn't take a whole lot of time from us in order to do that. It's something that we have to teach them how to do as well. By us showing that we care about them, they're now going to show that they care about me. And that's important. As a teacher in the classroom, I did the same thing. Every morning we had a morning meeting. It is a quick check-in. It is something I'm just doing a pulse on. Administrator, same thing. Walked by every single door, every morning, I greeted them. Sometimes they just need a simple hi. As a substitute teacher, I was in a classroom today, substituting teaching in our district. Those kids just want to be heard. They want it, and we have to teach them because some of them don't know how. So it is very important that we are teaching it. It is.
All right, so yes, we still have social emotional learning skills that are built into our programming. What was removed was the rhythm app. So there was an app that was allowing students to do that kind of check-in electronically, and that was removed because there were some concerns over data and those sorts of things. And so if we have restorative practices and structures in place where the teachers are doing that checking in, great. Then we don't need something like a rhythm app because that's happening within the context of the relationships within the classroom. But we've got to make sure that that's happening. And here's why. It's not just about making sure that they have the social and emotional learning for their own benefit, but this is what's going to help them when they get to their careers. Because people don't get fired usually for hard skills, they get fired for soft skills. And that's what we're talking about when we're talking about social and emotional ways of interacting with the world. And we can do that in the context of content. I taught English language arts. You betcha we were talking about character traits when we were talking about characters and what made somebody hardworking and what made somebody compassionate and what made somebody have empathy to be able to relate to the people that are around them. We don't have to do it in isolation. We do it within the context of the skills that we're doing. Activities that breed collaboration, where we have the students working together. Those are the skills that they're going to need when they get out of our district and go into the career world.
Thank you very much. Here's a vision question. Each of you is running for the school board for different reasons, perhaps. Everyone's got a pet project. Think of your role as an advocate in the budgeting process. Here's a question, Michelle. Much of school board activity involves budget creation and approval. What is your process for working through a budget proposal and deciding on a final budget?
Working through a budget is intense. I mean, we can see it, like she said, we sat through 2 board work sessions the last week. Our board members have sat through hours, in session, but also on their own studying it. It's very intensive. And as an administrator, I've had that experience. I've had that experience of having to look through it. You have to look at every little piece. And you have to ask yourself some of those hard questions sometimes. What is the best solution for all students? Every decision that I will make as a board member has a child's face in front of it. Not my own child's, every child in our district, every teacher in our district, because that is the reason we are there. That is the reason that those board members are sitting there endlessly, thinking and contemplating, crying over what decisions they have to make, because they are trying to make the best decision for all students, all teachers in our district. I will have that face in front of me with every decision I am trying to make.
Absolutely. The North Star is what is best for kids. Full stop. That is the North Star. What is best for kids? All kids, every kid in the district. So that's number one. That's the North Star. The second thing is listening. Listening to stakeholders and what it is that they want to see happening in our district. And I will tell you, one thing that I love about this district and that I hear over and over and over that people love about this district is the programming that we offer. We offer some of the best programs that you will find, whether that's in fine arts, whether that's in athletics, whether that's in our CTE programming. We offer the best programs. And any child that comes into LISD has a pathway for them, and in some cases, multiple pathways. A friend of mine, her daughter is graduating from the Colony High School. She's graduating with an associate's degree, with a pharmacy tech certification, and just got accepted into a prestigious art school in Chicago. All of that through the LISD process. Now, one thing that I do want to look at, and which actually is one of the priority labels that Dr. Rapp has on these programs, is parity. I want to make sure that those kinds of pathways are accessible to every kid in the district. So that is, I am 100% in line with Dr. Rapp that that has to be one of our high-level priorities.
Yes, whenever, testing. Whenever looking at a proposed budget, I would also like to have side by side an annual report of what expenses did we actually spend the previous year. And then listen to district admin, listen to professionals, and also our community groups. What is the return on investment? If we're investing large sums of monies for specific programs, what are we getting in return for that? Is it an effective program? Can we cut something? I think that we have a responsibility as a board to be fiscally responsible to our taxpayers. Our bond money, I think that it needs to be spent directly how it's indicated in the bond proposal. So budgeting, may our budget match, I'm sorry, I would pair up side by side the annual report as well as the budget as I review it.
Thank you very much. Next. Would you agree that having negotiating skills and interpersonal skills are required for an effective school board trustee? Would you agree? For you, Michelle. You first. Your negotiating skills and interpersonal skills will help you to be an effective school board trustee.
I'm a people person. I am a people person. I am a mother. I can speak from the heart. I mean, sometimes mothers just have to go out and get it done. You know, I've got 4 children, 4 active children in the district, and sometimes they're all over the place. And sometimes I have to negotiate to make sure that everything is being done like it needs to be done. As a teacher in a classroom, do you know how many times I have to negotiate with those students or other teachers or sometimes the administrator? Because I know what I know is best for those kids. As a principal, same thing. I had to negotiate, I had to communicate, I had to use my interpersonal skills. And it all comes back to that SES piece as well. I know how to treat others like I want to be treated. And so I'm able to do that with respect of everybody else. I'm a humble person. I'm feet on the floor, ready to go. I'm willing to go out and meet anybody who wants to meet. I'm willing to have those conversations. Sometimes they're hard. Sometimes you're gonna have people yelling in your face and not agreeing with you. That's okay. But if we can find one little piece of common ground, now we're able to talk. And now we're able to move forward with it. So it is critical.
Yeah, I taught 7th grade, and my daughter is currently a 7th grader and is 13. Talk about negotiation skills. But let me talk a little bit more about professionally. So before I was in the current role that I'm in at the region, I served as the accountability consultant. And I came on right as A through F came in. So it was my job to explain the A through F accountability system all the way from superintendents to teachers. So I've been told that one of my super skills, one of my superpowers, is translation. So I really enjoy taking really complicated things and making them understandable. And that's one of those skills that is really important in negotiation, because all of the things that we're talking about, the budget, the staffing situations, SEL, all of these are complex and nuanced issues. So we got to be able to translate what they really mean so that we can come to the table and find some agreement on them.
So I'm thinking about, as a classroom teacher, just having parents come and engaging with them for parent-teacher conferences. And then as a campus administrator, having lead appraisal meetings with all of my teachers, reviewing and assessing where they're at in their professional growth, negotiating where they should be on the rubric based off of evidence we've seen in the classroom. I think interpersonal skills are very important. Negotiating skills are very important. I use it professionally right now as a real estate agent. I negotiate all the time on behalf of my clients, just practicing my fiduciary duties, negotiating the very best price for my client. So very important.
It's hot button issue time. Dr. Barker, book banning has been featured in the news lately. What position do you have on removing or restricting access to books in the LISD school libraries? And how would you approach the book selection process for school libraries?
Great question. I told you I was a former English teacher. I'm all about books. So my daughter can tell you we have a house full of them. I even had to get rid of some because we ran out of bookshelf space. My daughter's bookshelf is stacked 3 back on the bookshelf, each shelf. So I am adamantly opposed to blanket banning books, just taking a list of books and saying we're not going to have these in our library. I'm not about that, because our students should have access to reading material that represents them and that shows them a window into other representation. We have a policy at LISD for challenging reading materials or resources that are within the curriculum. It's not used very often. So this isn't a big issue in our district. Absolutely, if there is something that needs to be challenged, challenge it. We've got the policy in place and the appropriate people will review it. And as a parent, absolutely, you have the right and the responsibility, this is the stance of the American Library Association, you have the right and the responsibility as a parent to decide what your child is reading. But a library in a school can't make that decision for every child.
I would agree. A blanket banning for a specific book or for types of books is not something I'm interested in. We do have a process of challenging a book. I think in the last 18 to 24 months, we've improved our process of book selection, going from just a library and deciding what goes on the shelves to having a 2-step process now, using a committee. So I think that's it.
That's it.
There is a policy in place. There is a procedure if you would like a book challenged or to look at, it's there. The district, the school board has created that. And as she mentioned, it's very rarely used. So we need to ensure that if parents are wanting to voice that, as a school board member, I give them the access to it. Here is the policy in place. You want to do it, you do it. That's your policy. But I also believe that a parent has the right to make a choice on whether they want their child to read certain material or not. It is not up for other parents to make the decision for that parent. It is up to the parent of the child to make that decision. And that's all I have to say about that.
Our next question will be posed to Jacob initially. You ready?
Yes, sir.
Would you support a single-member district to increase diversity on the school board and be more reflective of the demographics of the student and parent population?
Yes, sir, I would. I think we can take steps towards that. I believe Richardson did that fairly recently, and we could model it after them. We have a very large district, and I would like to see more representation on a local level. Yes, I'm in favor.
Thank you.
I'm not so much in favor. Parents have the right to join. They have the right to stand up here just like we are and voice their opinion and be an advocate for the students in our district. I think we do need to do a better job at ensuring that parents are informed how, because I think that is one of the missing pieces. Parents just don't know that they can have the voice. Parents don't know that they have the opportunity. I'm here to represent all students in our district. It doesn't matter where I live or what color I am, what religion I am. I'm here for all students, and that's the school board that I want representing the district that my children attend. I want someone who cares about every student, and I don't want to limit it to based on where you're located and so forth.
Dr. Barker.
I am in favor. I think that there has been a history, not necessarily in this district, though you could argue so, and there are some people who are arguing so, of there being limited representation and that the majority of the board has come from one or two particular locations for the most part. And I'll say, yes, Richardson ISD went to that, but they did that after a lawsuit. So it took a lawsuit to move Richardson ISD in that direction. And sometimes that's what has to happen because it's really hard to give up power when you have it. So it's a challenging sort of a conversation to have because we really have to take a look at who are we and what are we representing and are we representing everyone in the district. The other thing that I will say on a lighter note is that selfishly, I would love to not have to travel over 120 plus miles to campaign. It would be a whole lot easier if I could just campaign in one community. We have so many diverse communities. And so representing those, yes, absolutely, I represent every single child in the district and I make decisions for every single child in the district. But it would be nice to have someone to go to that knows my community and knows what we are dealing with in a particular locale.
Thank you. Now, Michelle, this next question has your name on it. What would you do to ensure that more parents who are not able to attend school board meetings have an opportunity to provide feedback?
Transparency is the biggest thing. I think parents who are not able to attend the board meetings have the opportunity to watch online. And I know that we have families in our district who do not have that online access. We need to go to them and provide it. We need to go to them and maybe having those community checks around the district. And it is right. We do need to make sure that we are representing the different areas of our district. And that's where the school board members need to go out because we are a team. The school board with the superintendent is a team of 8 in LISD. So we need to go out as a team and make sure that everybody in our district knows how to have their voices heard. We need to go out and make sure that they are able to voice. Do they even understand when school board meetings happen? Do they understand the policies in place that are there? Do they understand the procedures if they would like to speak and what happens at that? I think we need to go out and make sure that parents are informed and educated because I don't think that parents understand. I think there is that discrepancy.
I think this is a really challenging one because we have parents in all different walks of life. And we have parents that would love to attend a board meeting, but work 2 jobs. And so they're working during the board meeting. We have parents that, like you said, don't have internet access and can't access the online feed. And so we have to really get creative around mechanisms of getting feedback. That's a part of being a researcher is figuring out how do you get data, right? And there are a lot of different ways that we can do that. We can do it through surveys, and not just online surveys, but printing those surveys out and having them at key events, like my daughter's choir concert, for instance. Making sure that we are having things like focus groups with parents in those different communities, bringing them together and asking them the questions one-on-one. Making sure that we're translating our materials, those policies that you mentioned, so that they know how to comment into other languages, not just Spanish. That's not the only language that is spoken in our community other than English. So allowing those different kinds of mechanisms to gather the feedback from the parents beyond just the board meeting.
Kind of got lost on the question. Is it how to get more parents to board meetings and participating?
There are some parents who are not able to attend board meetings.
Okay.
What can you do to make sure that you get their feedback?
Oh, I got you. Yes. So digitally, we can send out stuff, surveys for parents to do. I would argue that we do provide broadband. We've got some sticks, for internet sticks, that we give to students to access their instruction on their iPads if they don't have that at home. So every parent does have some form of internet service at home, and we provide that through the district. If you're on free or reduced lunch, I think you would qualify for that through our IT department. But whenever, like at Lakeland Elementary, we had 3 different languages that we'd translate everything into that we'd send home. And so accessibility through their native language is important as well. That's the expectation for teachers whenever they send communication home. That should be the expectation for the district as well. How do we connect with so many different native languages and make sure that we get their feedback? I think we do that digitally, but also printouts as well. Yeah.
Thank you very much. We're at the moment for the final question. Staci, if elected, what will be your top 3 priorities?
I'm Dr. Staci, place 7. My first priority is student safety. It has to be. And I don't just mean safety in regards to making sure that our doors are locked and that we scan the IDs when students come in, but that students feel safe in our buildings. A lot of our students don't feel safe for various reasons, so we've got to make sure that they feel safe. And that includes things like social and emotional skills. It includes things like mental health. It includes things like being inclusive. My second priority is student opportunity. I mentioned that parity is a big deal to me. I want to make sure that whether it's discipline, whether it's academics, because we have some disparities there too, whether it's the way that we speak to students. I could tell you some stories about some language that has circulated. Those are all the things that I want to make sure that every student in our district gets the same excellent experience. My third thing is teacher support. As a current educator in the education system, I know how tough it is right now. And so we've got to make sure that we are supporting our students, and I think one of the main ways to do that is to make sure that we're looking at what are we putting on teachers' plates and what can we take off. Dr. Staci, place 7.
Thank you very much, Dr. Barker.
Jacob Anderson, place 7 also. Number 1, I would say it's the teacher shortage, just recruitment and retention of the quality staff that we have currently. Number 2, number 1, tied for number 1, is my number 1 job is campus safety, making sure that kids feel safe whenever they come to school. And number 3, just continued improvement in student achievement. We can always get better. At Lakeland last year, we were rated a D, and then we worked our butts off, and we got that campus to a rating of B. There's still wiggle room to continue to improve, and so that's my focus as a board member, continued improvement in student achievement. Thanks.
To follow suit, Michelle Alkhatib, place 6. My first and they're all equal. My 3 priorities are equal. One of them is voice. We need to make sure that parents and community members and students know how to use their voice. They know what voice they're able to have. We need to make sure that they have the resources in order to use it within the district. Safety and security, it's up there. We need to make sure that our students, our teachers, our staff feel safe and secure going into those classrooms. And I'm not just talking about weapons and stuff in the classroom. We have other issues. We have a lot of other issues, and we need to make sure that they know how to report it. They need to know what resources they have available to them. And then, of course, I'm going to go with funding. We need to be advocating to our state legislators to support public education and give us funding. In order to keep these great things that we have going on in the district, we need them to hear our voices. And no, they have to fund us. They have to be able to fund us. So those are my priorities. Michelle Alkhatib, hard last name, but go by Michelle, place 6.
All right, everybody. We're getting close to the end. However, each of you has 1 minute to make a closing statement, beginning with Jacob.
Go. Again, Jacob Anderson, place 7. Jacob Anderson, place 7. Jacob Anderson, place 7. So, as a special ed teacher, as a dual language education, or elementary ed teacher, and as a campus administrator who was in the trenches after our pandemic closures, trying to hire during a teacher shortage, I have practitioner experience in the classroom and on the campus, and it's recent. I'm recently removed from public education, but this is a ministry for me. I'm not in it for the money, never have been. I just simply want to serve my community and continue the ministry that I started 2012 in serving the students and staff and the families of LISD. Thank you.
Thank you, Jacob. Michelle.
Michelle Alkhatib, place 6. I'll continue the trend. I am here because I need to be. I want to be. I am here because I belong here. With my experience as a teacher, as an educator, as a parent, with 4 kids in the district, I am here because this is what is best. I am here to continue advocating what is best for our kids. I'm qualified for this position. I have the qualifications that are needed in order to make sure that you as taxpayers, that you as parents, you as grandparents, neighbors, aunts, uncles of kids in our district, those kids are getting what they need. I'm qualified for that. I'm here to empower them, to empower those students to take that action for their learning, to take that action that they need. I'm here to empower those teachers to find that passion for teaching again. I'm here to empower those administrators to love what they do. That is why I'm here. I'm here for all students, all teachers in the district. I'm here for that. Michelle Alkhatib, place 6.
Thank you. Dr. Barker.
First of all, I want to thank the Flower Mound Area Democrats and you, Calvin, for moderating and for hosting this event and for allowing me the opportunity to speak. I hope that the things that I've said tonight have shown you the passion that I have for education. This is my life. I've dedicated my life to education. I've been in this field since I got out of college, and I'm going to stay in it. And I am really wanting to make sure that every kid in this district gets the best possible education, regardless of which campus or which community or which part of town. That is what I'm about. I also want us to invest in our students, in our teachers, in our future. I firmly believe that our students in Lewisville ISD will leave here and become leaders of the world. And so we've got to make sure that we do the steps to make sure that that happens. I believe that we can work together to do that. Dr. Staci, place 6.
Now we can applaud.
So I just wanted to take a minute to say, I know you guys have a lot of other things going on. You'll see an empty chair because one candidate canceled and another candidate declined to participate at all. I don't know their priorities, but I want to thank you 3 for making us, the voters, a priority and coming out to educate us.